Welcome to Small Practice Support Information Session number 9. In this Law Society of Ireland recording, Keith O'Malley talks to Michelle Nolan about the very latest situation regarding state supports for legal firms and other businesses.
And welcome everybody who's joined us today to information session number 9, which is presented to you by the Small Practice Support section. And I'm Michelle Nolan, who's Member Engagement Manager with the Law Society, and I'm stepping in today and indeed next week for Justin Purcell, my colleague, because he's on leave at the minute. So we would encourage you to submit any questions you may have in the chat function, which is, you could either do it to all of us, both myself and Keith, and indeed everybody attending today, or just myself and Keith, and we relay the question out for you. So today we're going to be discussing the latest stimulus package that was released and the relevance to it to small practices, and the 4 pillars that it falls under, and how relevant it is to use a small practice, but also how it's going to help you in relation to dealing with your clients, okay? So without further ado, I think if you're online there, although I've lost vision, there we are. Okay, so Keith, can you just actually talk us through the latest stimulus package that was released from the government there on the 23rd of July? I know it comes under 4 pillars, so perhaps if you could go through each of the pillars and highlighting the significance for the small practitioner with particular relevance, and then if we've any questions, we'll come back to you and ask them.
The stimulus package that was announced by the government on the 23rd of July was based around these 4 pillars: backing Ireland's businesses, helping people get back to work, building confidence, investing in communities, and preparing Ireland for the economy of the future. And I'm going to talk through each of these over the next few slides, and then, as I said, move on and talk about things that are a little bit more relevant and applicable to solicitors. The first of these pillars is the one that is most relevant to self-employed solicitors and to solicitors who are employers. And the first one here they've mentioned, or they've listed as new employment wage support scheme to succeed the temporary wage subsidy scheme, and it is then going to run until April 2021. So what they're doing is they're changing the temporary wage subsidy scheme, which an awful lot of legal firms and other employers would have availed of over the last few months, and the scheme that is going to be put in place over the next few weeks is going to run until April 2021. So most certainly that's good news in as far as there's a good deal more time. 0% interest will apply on certain SME loans for the first year. A lot of the initiatives by the government revolve around lending as opposed to grants, and that's something that business owners aren't very happy about, and you know, it's something that is kind of may change further, but at the moment an awful lot of the government support is about lending or making funding available to businesses, but for a relatively short term through things like tax warehousing and loan schemes. There is a restart grant for enterprises, and it's being extended and expanded. There are problems with that for some solicitors. This particular initiative is operated regionally by every local authority takes responsibility for this, and it's based around commercial rates. So if you're not paying commercial rates, you probably don't apply for this. And also in a lot of counties, if you didn't actually close up your office during that lockdown period, you also could find that you're not eligible for the restart grant. So our experience about the restart grant to date is that it's patchy. Some people can access it, people who are on rates, and people who closed up their firms, but other people can't. There is a general waiver of commercial rates, will be extended to September 2020. But again, based on if you had closed up your practice. There is a 2 billion has in the stimulus package, they referred again to the 2 billion that has been put in place for the credit guarantee scheme. And what this is you can access business loans through banks. So you can go to a bank and get a 5-year term loan or something else like that, and the banks will put it through this scheme where the government's guarantees 85% of the principal. And because they're guaranteeing such a large amount, the banks are much more flexible and easy, really, in their credit review. So these loans are relatively easy to get because they are guaranteed, and the interest rate's very low on a lot of them, but you're going to have to pay them back. And then there was an announcement that there will be other business finance measures, including supports for startups, but no great detail about that. That's more an aspirational thing.
Keith, could I just ask a question there? In relation to the 0% for SME loans, for the purpose of this grant, do small practices fall into the SME category?
Yes, they do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
The next one then I'm going to talk you through is helping people get back to work. The extension of the pandemic unemployment payment to the 1st of April 2021. 200 million to be invested in training, skills development, work placement schemes, recruitment subsidies, and 35,000 extra places provided in further and higher education. So not an awful lot there that's going to impact on solicitors who are in practice. A proportion of solicitors would have been on pandemic unemployment payment, and we'll talk about that in due course. But the other things are obviously more to do with stimulating the economy generally. Building confidence, investing in communities. There's saying that they're going to provide financial certainty through the enterprise wage support scheme, the pandemic unemployment schemes and rates waivers and so on. So they refer to schemes that have already been touched on, and a general social welfare scheme, the enterprise wage support scheme. They say they're going to invest 500 million in communities, invest in schools, public transport, home retrofitting, and all of that. Tax measures, including a temporary reduction in the rate of VAT, has been commented on to a large extent in the media. And the other thing, of course, that also got a lot of comment was the spend and save initiatives and targeted measures for most vulnerable sectors. So clearly the government is very keen that the tourist industry can be supported. So a stay and spend initiative has been put in place. And again, it's some people would argue that it's quite patchy, that a lot of people don't qualify for it because the way it's been set up, that you claim it as a tax rebate. So what they're saying is if you're not paying tax, you're not entitled to participate within that initiative. The final one then is preparing Ireland for the economy of the future, and 25 million invested in life science and training and skills development, additional supports to business to develop their online presence, 20 million Brexit fund to help SMEs, and expansion of sustaining enterprise fund scheme. The two middle ones there are the ones that are most likely to support solicitors. A lot of solicitors have already availed of the second one, additional supports to business to develop their online presence. We're going to touch on that in a few minutes. There's a voucher scheme in place where you can apply for and get 2,500 to spend on improving your how you trade online, and then another 2,500. So a total of 5,000 there. And those vouchers continue to be available. And then secondly, the 20 million Brexit fund is a little bit up in the air at the moment because nobody is quite sure how Brexit is going to work. But that is something that solicitors should be able to access as well. So what I'm going to do is, for the rest of this seminar, our session, information session. I'm going to talk through 8 different state supports that are available. I'm going to turn off this share, the slides for the moment, just so that just to give us a rest from them, and I'm going to talk through them. We'll start with the temporary wage subsidy scheme. Michelle, you're familiar with the temporary wage subsidy scheme?
Only vaguely, I'm afraid. This is Justin's area. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Well, it's an initiative that an awful lot of employers have accessed, and what it was put in place to help employers keep people on their payroll during a difficult time, particularly the lockdown time. And it was based on a number of eligibility criteria. And at the time, your turnover needed to drop by 25%, or if your turnover hadn't dropped by 25% for the second quarter of 2020, well, certainly orders coming in needed to drop.
Turnover or income?
This is the thing. It's kind of been left open. So really, it's up to the you as an employer to make a claim that your business has been impacted and your income has been impacted in the kind of terms that they're talking about. So it could be a straight drop in income, or it could be a drop in orders coming in.
Yes, it's just Hilary O'Connor here has just said that exact thing, that her accountant is concerned that she may not qualify for the wage subsidy scheme because while her income is down 25%, her firm overall looks healthy. Can you give her any solace in that?
Yeah, yes, the Revenue Commissioners issued a very detailed guide on this on the 23rd of June. And this is a really, really important guide that was largely overlooked, but it covers pretty big kind of change in the whole area of temporary wage subsidy scheme and eligibility for temporary wage subsidy scheme. And what it said was, coming into the end of June, it was important for employers to look back and make sure that they had, that things had turned out as they expected with regard to their income, their drop in income for the second quarter of 2020. And they've essentially laid out 3 different scenarios, as I think 3 or 4 different scenarios that employers have to look at. One is if your income has dropped by 25%, or if your orders have dropped, or there's any other reasonable claim you can make that your business has been impacted to the effect of, to the extent of about 25% of normal business. It's been reduced by that amount in the second quarter, that is up to the end of June, then you're okay, both for the time you've been on a temporary wage subsidy scheme to date and to stay on it. However, if you're, when you look at the second scenario, is you look at your turnover and surprise, it didn't turn out to be less than 25%. In fact, you did relatively okay. Your turnover was down, but it was only down maybe 90% or 85% or something else like that. And also any other measures, for example, orders coming in and that, you can't really make a case that your turnover was less than 25, was at least 25% down. In that case, what the revenues say is you should stop claiming temporary wage subsidy scheme right away, that you shouldn't claim it anymore.
This is something the society is going to really have to keep a close eye on, because the reality is that towards a lot of the practitioners have actually been relying on work that already had come in before the pandemic, and they're winding up that work. It's the end of the year that we're going to have the real issue with. So the society is going to have to keep an eye on that and perhaps lobby for our members in relation to this. So we will be keeping a close eye on it. But it is concerning that the end of the year is not even being catered for, and they should be stopping this.
Yeah, and it's something that every solicitor should get advice on, professional advice on. The obvious person is from your accountant. Can you, if you're claiming temporary wage subsidy scheme, can you make a pretty solid claim that either your income has been down over 25% over the last, during the second quarter of 2020, or at least that your orders coming in are down. You need to be able to stand over this claim. If you don't, revenue say that they will make a claim back for any monies that have been taken. And in fact, they also announced that they have set up a team of investigators who are going to go out and check that all claims made under the temporary wage subsidy scheme are kosher. So they're very, very much keen to, as I said, the three scenarios are: your turnover is absolutely down 25%. Turnover or orders coming in are absolutely 25% down for the second quarter. And if that's the case, you're fine historically, and you're also fine going forward. If your turnover isn't down, but it's pretty close or whatever, and you feel that you made a reasonable claim for the first quarter, what they're saying is that's okay, but stop now, and we won't make any a claim against what we've given you. But they say if you continue to claim TWS and TWSS, and you can't stand over your claim of your turnover being down by 25% in the second quarter of 2020, then they will make a claim back for all monies, and probably will charge you interest as well. So it's a very difficult area, and it's something that you should get advice on from your financial advisors. The next important one is PUP. The pandemic unemployment payment. Quite a large proportion of solicitors and all self-employed people went on PUP, and PUP has provided an awful lot of very, very critical funding over the last few months. But the risk with PUP is that a solicitor drifts back to work and starts doing work, and before you know it, they're pretty busy, or maybe half busy half the time, or even busy full time, and they're continuing to claim pandemic unemployment payment. It is important to understand that whereas there was some flexibility, the department, and this is the Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection, we're generally flexible with self-employed people, and understood that they needed to do small things to keep their businesses ticking over. They are very likely to look very badly on somebody who continues to claim pandemic unemployment payment, and it's increasingly working and earning income. So the important thing you have to understand about pandemic unemployment payment, it is an absolute. You either get it for being idle, or you don't get it. If you want to work 2 days a week or 2.5 days a week within your practice, then there is a different scheme altogether. You need to go off pandemic unemployment payment, and you need to go on to something like the job seeker short-term working payment. If you are increasingly working, and if you are on pandemic unemployment payment, get advice. There's two people that you can get advice from. One from your own financial advisor, your accountant, your tax advisor, and the other is you can also go to the department and ask them. But it is important to understand that the department has not given self-employed people, a license to claim pandemic unemployment payment on an ongoing basis, and increasingly work and earn income from
Okay,
them.
which is difficult for small practices, I have to say. But anyway, I'm biased. Can we move on to the commercial rates waiver and then the restart grant, please?
Absolutely, yeah. Commercial rates waiver, is useful for people who closed up their practices and who pay rates, and that unfortunately doesn't. A lot of people fall outside that. The next initiative that I want to touch on is the restart grant. That's very closely aligned to rates because it's based on giving you a rebate of rates that you paid last year. And it's organised by local authorities, and it varies from county to county, so just be aware of it. The next initiative, and I'm just going to go back onto the slides now. Sorry, how do I do that up here?
Tax fair housing. Yeah. Share your screen, I think.
The next one is on the next page I'm going to show is tax warehousing. Tax warehousing is a huge initiative. And it's a really, really important one. However, like an awful lot of the things that the government has done, it doesn't involve a giveaway. It's simply deferring. So it's saying, if you have a tax liability, you don't have to pay for it paid right away. If you want, you can just hang on to that money and we won't chase you and we won't charge you interest. Now, this is a very interesting one. As an initiative, it was started by the revenue commissioners, and revenue commissioners rolled it out, and then the government took it over. The problem, because of that and the way it's kind of evolved and changed, there's a fair amount of uncertainty about it. It's a big initiative because what it says is if you don't pay your VAT and your PAYE that you owe to the revenue commissioners, they quite simply won't go after you. You don't, and we're talking about from when businesses open up plus 2 months, so probably another month or two away, and you don't have to pay any of that money for another 12 months. You do have to pay it, but you won't be chased if you don't pay it, and you won't be charged interest. The problem, and I know regulation department are very concerned, about this, is you get into a situation where somebody ends up with a big debt that in 12 months' time you won't be able to pay. So it is something that you're going to have to ultimately pay. But it is it can involve a large amount of money. I think that's the important thing about that. Microfinance loans are something we covered on our information seminar on 5th of May, and we had somebody from Microfinance Ireland along, and that is those loans are available. The application for process is kind of detailed, but these are easier loans to get and more attractive loans to get than the ones that you'll get from mainstream banks. And the mainstream banks are the loan schemes go through what's called the Credit Guarantee Initiative, and that is in place, and there's 200 billion has been set aside by the government for that, so that's a huge amount of money. But what we're talking about there, as I mentioned earlier, this is where you go to your local bank, AIB, Bank of Ireland, your local branch, you identify a particular financial product that suits you, maybe a term loan or whatever, and you get it, but you get it through this scheme, and because you get it through this scheme, the approval process is more relaxed, and the interest rates can be smaller. The last item on that I want to touch on is trading online voucher, and this is something I referred to earlier. A lot of law firms have accessed this. It was a scheme that was in place before COVID ever happened, but suddenly it got a whole new relevance. And what it is money that's available to people that you can access. You get it, and then you pay it out to somebody, to a service provider in this area. So For example, if you want to improve, the shopping basket side to your website, or you want to just simply improve on search engine optimization, and you identify somebody who can help you, you make an application for this, you can get 2,500, and you can then make a second application, as I understand, for another 2,500. And this scheme continues to be available. There was another voucher scheme for business continuity, and that stopped. But this scheme continues to go. And that's really it. They are the supports that are available at the moment for businesses.
That's very comprehensive, Keith. Thank you so much. It's funny, there's a lot of news in there, not so much good news, but I mean, it is important for you to know that for your clients. But just Brian there, he had a compliance visit in relation to TWSS, and they accept figures run on a basic quarter on quarter compared to last year. So that may be a little bit better news than we actually felt. And also they're looking for proof of payment to employees. So the TWSS, I think, is an area for Justin to keep an eye on in the coming weeks and months on your behalf. But just to say thank you for joining us today. And Keith, have you anything else to add before we move on to discuss next week's?
No, I think the two really big important ones that solicitors should be aware of are, in terms of the changing rules and the changing regulations, are TWSS, the temporary wage subsidy scheme, and pandemic unemployment payment. Do not be claiming if there's an eligibility problem, because you will run into problems. Yeah.
And can I just say that all of these information sessions, and indeed previous ones, the Road to Recovery webinars, etc., we're all available on the Law Society's website under the Business Hub, which we'll be sending out this recording in the couple of days before the weekend, giving you the slides and a few little updates. And we'll link you into the all the previous seminars, but they're under lawsociety.ie/support webinars. And also all the previous small practice updates that we've issued are all there, easy to find as well. And a number of what we discussed here today are also included in those updates. So next week, we'll be discussing wellbeing initiatives that the Society has, and indeed signposting it to other initiatives outside of the Society on a confidential basis. So I do hope you'll join me. I'm back in the seat again next week because Justin's not back.
One last thing, Michelle. Everybody is aware, no doubt, of the excellent webinars that Flor McCarthy and Martin Lawler are doing. And Friday week, I think it's the 14th of August, they're covering this subject.
Cash flow, isn't it?
State supports.
Yeah.
They have a longer seminar, so they will be providing probably a good deal more detail. It's something that I recommend everybody tune in.
We'll send out the link to Flora's webinar in our follow-up email, which may be helpful to some of our members. But just the trading online voucher there, we've been asked where they actually get that. Is it from the local enterprise organisation, or is there? We'll send a link out in relation to that, I think, isn't there?
Yes, it is the local enterprise office, but we will send a link.
Great. Okay. Well, I think that's it now, folks. Thank you for taking the time during your lunch hour to join us. We really appreciate it. Please spread the word, because we'll be doing more and more of these information sessions as we continue through this pandemic. And if there are any topics you would like covered, or indeed any professionals or other providers you'd like to actually feature in this session, please do let us know by either contacting myself, Justin, or Keith, and at smallpractice@lawsociety.ie. But for now, thank you for your time and have a good afternoon.